With the release of the Amphoreus trailer, Hoyo has given us a lot of hints and drip marketing for the cast of Amphoreus patch. But it might as well be all Greek to us. Literally. This video aims to be a compilation of sort for the ancient Greek references I have detected in the drip marketing so far, plus some speculations of my own based on Elysian Realm, Fate, and Evangelion. Well, yes, Amphoreus is secretly a Fate collab, and yes, the plot is Tang, again. Part 1. Elysian Realm, Faust, and Romanticism. Right off the bat, the description of the Golden Epic trailer has told us that it's a reference to Elysian Realm and Honkai Impact, which itself was based on Faust Part 2 and the Greek myth of Elysium, the afterlife of heroes after they die. The plot of Elysian Realm can be roughly summed up as: May as Dr. Faust beat up Gretchen to save Gretchen Kiana from herself. Then, May Faust ran off to travel back in time via a simulation of Elysium, the Greek afterlife for heroes. In Elysian Realm, May Faust met up with the heroes of the past and Helen of Troy, the ideal beauty of classical Greek and, in this case, Alicia. But of course, it's all a simulation, named after a Greek afterlife for a reason, and they're all dead all along. You see, Goethe Faust was written at the time when the Renaissance and Romantic views of classical Greco-Roman culture were seen as the ideal. This is in contrast to the Enlightenment movement, which also hailed from the Renaissance but arrived at a completely different conclusion. If Romanticism idealized the past Greco-Roman culture as morally good and perfect, then the Enlightenment movement acknowledges that the biggest strength of the Greco-Roman era was the beginning of rationalism and logic instead of relying on religions for the development of worldviews and morality. For the scholars of the Enlightenment, intellectual pursuits and a rational, scientific view of the world are considered the correct way to understand the world, not how the past views it and not how religions view it. While the Enlightenment movement pushed for progress to the future, rationality, and the scientific methods, its opposite, Romanticism, viewed the past as the ideal beauty, while the present is a corruption of the past. However, there are variations in the Romantic genre as well. If the earliest Romantic works pushed for the ideals of classical Greek, the later Romanticism movement pushed for a rose-tinted view of medieval Europe. In real life, needless to say, the Enlightenment movement won out as the world moved into the age of science and industrial revolution, the modern world we are currently living in. But in any case, this contrast between the Romantic view of classical Greek and the Enlightenment movement was expressed through two key characters of Faust Part 2. The ghost of Helen of Troy represents the ideal beauty of the past that cannot be reconstructed again, because while Helen was the most beautiful, she had already been dead and lost in the past, while Dr. Faust is the scientific man of the present, dry, soulless, and kept trying to reach for an ideal moment of perfect happiness, through Gretchen and through Helen anyway. So, as Helen of Troy faded away in Faust Part 2, leaving Faust to the present and for him to reach his own enlightenment and reunion with Sophia Gretchen, Alicia in Honkai Impact must also fade away at the end, allowing the present of Faust May to return to Gretchen Kiana. With the theme of Enlightenment versus Romanticism dominating Elysian Realm in Honkai Impact via the Faust Part 2 reference, it's no surprise to anyone that Amphoreus was revealed to also center around the same theme. Specifically, Romanticism as a movement, not the love romance genre, was directly name-dropped by the girl named Cyrene in the trailer and in Aglaea's splash art. With Aglaea's core flame being romance and her also being the narrator of the trailer, it's pretty probable that Aglaea will be the person to direct how the story of Amphoreus goes, literally. But if the Enlightenment movement Faust and the corruption of the present Mephistopheles are represented by May and the Herschers of corruption in Honkai Impact, what is the opposition of Romanticism in Amphoreus? Well, of course, it's machines, the product of the Enlightenment movement. Part 2. The Enlightenment movement, the corruption of the present and machine titans. In the legend's beginning, there was pure chaos. The gods casted down the core flames and the 12 titans, or 13, depending on whether you count the Atlas guy or not, were born from within the flame. Under the titans' rule, Atlas shouldered the sky. The Golden Age was prosperous, but even the era of peace must end. The black tides from beyond the sky arrived, corrupting the titans and mortals alike, driving them to wars. As the wars raged on, the sun closed its eyes. overtaken by the eclipse, heralding the age of darkness. Sounding a bit like Genshin at the moment. Atlas, who is probably Chrysos in here, bleed. His golden blood fell onto the ground, flowing into the Chrysos heirs of Amphoreus. A prophecy was made, and Astral Express would arrive at Amphoreus, carrying presumably Sunday into Amphoreus. The corrupted titans would fall, and a nameless new king would ascend to the throne and embark on a mission of deliverance. The sun would be remade from the core flames of the Chrysos heirs, and probably their lives too. The newly born sun would etch the footprints of humanities, restarting the samsara. At the end, even memories would slumber at dusk, as Cyrene asked us to remember Amphoreus names. Also, it would be a romantic story, in the Romanticism kind of way. So yeah, they're totally going to go the same way as Elysian Realm and Helen of Troy. Well, aside from that ending, the setting itself is as clear as mud due to the lack of information, so the following parts are guesses and speculations based on what we have known so far of the Honkai Star Rail timeline and Amphoreus lore. Your mileage might vary. Starting at the beginning, it looks like Amphoreus was initially ruled by Titans, who were not the Aeons themselves, but were creations of an unknown aeon with symbolism related to the sun. This is our ideal past of Romanticism that the Amphoreus cast is trying to recreate with the sacrifice of their core flames. However, the influence of said sun aeon waned and lost to the black tides, which corrupted all the Titans, the equivalents of her share of corruption in Elysian Realm and of Mephistopheles in Faust Part 2. Of the known Aeons so far, only a few have actually died, and with the sun symbolism, Aena of Order is a reasonable guess for the first Aeon who created the Titans for Amphoreus. Specifically, at the end of Swarm, in Abundance Chapter 2 and Beyond the Sky Choir Archive, Aena disappeared, and this disappearance was referred to as the loss of the sun for the worlds under Aena's rule. As a result of this imbalance, the equilibrium created a replacement sun for some of those worlds, and this sun was Yaoshur. This is why Sunday, the follower of Aena in the current Penacony plot, is also, well, sun-themed. In addition to Yaoshur, Equilibrium also backed Harmony and Elysian to replace Aena. This can be seen in Penacony, which used to follow Aena during the era of the Beyond the Sky Choir, but now follows Zype. For Elysian, Aena's eye is also present in Sparkle's multiple trailers and myriads, but said eye is always used to denote elation power, capturing everyone into her dream rather than representing Aena themselves. Evidently, Equilibrium has been at work, finding replacement suns to compensate for Aena's absence all over the places, from Yaoshur to Zype to Aha, depending on the world. So, who replaced Aena for Amphoreus? Who is behind the black tide? Who is the equivalence of the her share of corruption for Amphoreus? In Honkai Impact, it's easy to say that it's the Honkai. However, Honkai Star Rail is a bit different in that it's the most expansive world setting of all the Hoyo games out there. As recently revealed by the Memo Keeper who met Kiana, the Honkai Impact world had been sheltered by an unknown force from the rest of the universe up until the recent event. Effectively, compared to the much wider setting of Honkai Star Rail, Honkai Impact 3 people were in Belobog mode, so only the Honkai, which is associated with finality, can force its way in and became the stand-in for the corruption of the present to the romantic ideal of Elysian Realm. In Honkai Star Rail, the Aeons represent a much larger group of gods, which include finality, but as a group, they are not restricted to only the finality doing the corruption associated with black tides. For example, in Xianzhou, the source of corruption was Yaoshur, while in Belobog, the source of corruption is the Stellaron. Similarly, the outer god Yog-Sothoth, who also has similar power in Gun-Girl Z and, as recently revealed in Natlan Archon Quest, in Genshin as well. Effectively, there are many, many possible candidates for the Honkai-like black tides, not just the finality. It's too early to say for certain who is the present corruption of Faust Part 2 to contrast the sun of the past represented by Aena, but, in my opinion, in addition to the obvious guess of finality, a few other candidates also stand out as plausible culprits. The first candidate is the Nihility. In Izumo, the exact same plot already happened, with the Nihility corrupting the gods of Takamagara, starting a war between Takamagara gods and Izumo humans. In addition, the Nihility of Honkai Star Rail originated from Nietzsche's concept of nihility, which is, in short, the lack of will to live or to accomplish anything. People who succumb to Nietzsche's nihility generally give up on life, and, according to Nietzsche, this nihility is the result of the scientific progress and the Enlightenment movement creating the objective truth, leading to the loss of ideology, religion, and morality. Nietzsche's concept of nihility is a direct inheritor of the corruption of the present created by scientific progress in opposition to the ideal past idea previously promoted in Faust by Goethe. In other words, if Aina, the belief in God, had been the force that held back nihilism for these worlds of order, then as Aina died and their power waned at the end of Swarm, it would be logical for nihilism to once again take over these worlds without Aina's active protection. Of course, that's a big if, because this reasoning is based on Nietzsche's argument and not really stated in game yet. But nevertheless, because of the example at Izumo, nihility remains a strong candidate for the Black Tide in Amphoreus. The second possible candidate is the Elysian. Along the eons boosted by the equilibrium due to Aina's death, Aha was directly name-dropped in Swarm, alongside Zype and Yaoshe. Furthermore, Sparkle's Myriad also offered us a glimpse into the true form of Elysian, which is the exact same eye as Aina's, just completely monotone. Presumably, this means that Aha got some of Aina's power and worlds directly from Equilibrium's redistribution scheme. Even more damning is that way back during the Cosmo Odyssey board game in the first anniversary, there were already foreshadowing about the plot of Amphoreus and the titans of that world. Namely, Sparkle proclaimed to be the screenwriter of Amphoreus during the Age of Eternal Land, and she invited us to an immersive theater show about Amphoreus. Also, the titans of Amphoreus are actually divine mecha, so robots. So yeah, Sparkle is the screenwriter of Amphoreus, literally. Consequently, Sparkle's claim offers us another candidate for the Black Tides, the corruption of the present, the Elysian. It is not completely out of the equation that the Elysian messed around with Amphoreus' fate for the expressed purpose of taking away Aina's power base and killing them. After all, we already know that both Harmony and Elysian were backed by Equilibrium during the Swarm specifically to do so. The only question left is whether Amphoreus happened as an indirect consequence of Elysian and Harmony taking over Aina's power, or as a method of Elysian to take over Aina's power. If it's the latter scenario, then the Black Tides would be the Elysian taking over. As far as the theme of corruption of the present is concerned, the Elysian's hedonism does seem to fit the bill. However, personally, I have reasons to suspect that Sparkle and the Elysian are not the Black Tides directly themselves, but are merely screenwriters, the man behind the man who pushed for the Black Tides to take over Amphoreus. You see, the thing with the Elysian's modus operandi is that they're usually very subtle. They rarely stand forward as the actors, but more often recruit people and forces to their side. This can be seen in the Swarm disaster, when the masked fools recruited the presumed trailblazers on the gondola to do the deeds instead of directly fighting for the fall of Tazi themselves. Similarly, in Bellowbog, Sampo also stood behind and directed the cast's action so that Bronya would reunite with Seal in the underworld and find out the truth, leading to the desired outcome of Bronya does not take Kokolia's side on Bellowbog. You can also see this style of action in the current Honkai Impact collab, when Sparkle opted to recruit Vita to do her biddings even though Sparkle can brute force everything by herself, from what we have known of her control of Elysian. In Sparkle's words, the Elysian is the hidden actors, the screenwriters, the red herring, the supporting cast, the man behind the man, not the main characters. It's still entirely possible that the Black Tides are the Elysian, but as I mentioned above, I have reservations for this. At the same time, Sparkle being Amphoreus' screenwriter offers us an exciting new possibility for the identity of the Black Tides, and it is this final candidate that I am most suspicious about, the anti-organic equation. Remember when Sparkle told us that the Eternal City era of Amphoreus was ruled by divine mecha, and now in Amphoreus trailer, we are told that the Age of Peace in Amphoreus was ruled by the Titans? So connecting these two details together, we can guess that the Titans are exactly said divine mecha, as in, they're robots, which is exactly the plot of Fate Grand Order's Lost Belt 5, where all the Olympian gods and titans were divine mecha created by an ancient alien civilization, meant to ship these aliens to a new habitable planets. But unfortunately, all the aliens died off mid-journey, leaving the alien ships, the Greek gods, to arrive on Earth sans alien. And that's not the only thing they took inspiration from fate in Amphoreus, but I'll leave that for part 4. Anyway, back to Titans being divine mecha. With the Titans being robots, we now have another possibility for the identity of the Black Tides. As it's been shown in Gold and Gears and the Unknowable Domain, the anti-organic equation, at its root, is a program created by Rupert to save organic beings from the predetermined end. In Anti-Organic Virus 2, it has shown itself to be a, well, literal virus, infecting everyone in contact with the scepter systems with bad thoughts, adjusting their cognition so that the infected organic beings would think of themselves as inorganics. As the anti-organic equations take over their memories, it also compelled them to save organic beings from the predetermined future by killing them. It is functionally a virus that takes over people's minds, both organic and inorganic, and gives them a mission to save as many organics as possible while spreading itself in the universe as much as possible. In other words, what happened to the School of Evolutionary Perfection researchers in Anti-Organic Virus sounds strikingly similar to what happened to the Titans in Amphoreus. Divine machine meant to lead humanities but later devolved to killing humanity, presumably to save them from the horrible predetermined future. You can't get any more corruption of the present due to scientific progress than that, and fundamentally, that is the exact conversation that the her share of corruption, who incidentally also had eye and machine symbolism, had with Elysian in Elysian realm. Overall, putting all of this together, we can have a rough timeline of the backstory of Amphoreus. First, an Aeon with the sun symbolism, presumably Aena, ruled Amphoreus, but they did not rule directly. Instead, they created Adments, the 12 or 13 divine mecha titans, to direct the humans. The titans were led by the Atlas guy, whose name was possibly Chrysos. Sometime in the past, Sparkle interfered with the fate of Amphoreus and wrote a play. In the play, the titans and Amphoreus' son were corrupted by the black tides, which could be either finality, nihility, elation, or the anti-organic equation. My money is on the anti-organic equation, but that's neither here or there. Anyway, as a result of the corruption, the Titans and humans went to wars. The sun of Amphoreus closed its eye, taken over by an eclipse. Presumably this means that the last of Aena's power waned at this point. As a result, the Atlas Chrysos guy scattered his golden blood, the core flames, to the 12 Chrysos heirs. However, time passed, like Izumos' plan to melt everyone into the single blade of human, Acheron, to defeat the black hole of nihility and continue their existence as a single being. The Chrysos heirs now have another plan. They want to concentrate all the core flames again, even at the cost of their lives, and return the divine flames to the sun, which would be the proof of their existence, creating a new origin for the romantic poem Samsara, that is Amphoreus. Obviously, this is currently speculation, so it's not solid right now, and some parts might be wrong, but using information from Elysian Realm, Faust Part 2, Simulated Universe Stories, we can kind of patch it together like this. Ideologically, as Black Swan has stated, Amphoreus would be hanging in balance between 3 paths. And these 3 paths presumably represent the past, present, and future of Amphoreus. From context clues of Elysian Realm and Faust, we can kind of guess that the past is Order of Aena, the present is presumably either the Nihility of 9 or the anti-organic equation erudition of Nous, and the future is likely the Remembrance of Fuli, as stated by the description of the trailer, and SU Museum lore about remembrance, as where worlds and people escape to. Together, the 3 paths represent the 3-way conflict between the ideal past of Romanticism, the corruption of the present brought about by the Enlightenment movement, and the hope for the future that can overcome the corruption of the present. Well, that's the plot of Elysian Realm anyway, but what do all the Greek names mean? And how do the Greek myths incorporated into Amphoreus fit into the romantic structure of Amphoreus? Why is the story of Prometheus stealing fire from the god to give rationality to humans specifically highlighted here with all the lore about core flames, divine flame, stealing the flames, and returning the flames to gods? Unfortunately, since the script is around 10,000 words at the moment, I'll have to cut it off right now. The second half of this essay will actually stop beating around the bush and cover the Greek myths and fate referenced by the Amphoreus strip marketing. Please like and subscribe as I try not to die rushing the second half of this essay. By the way, the answer is Prometheus Unbound.